Hello, and welcome to another Changing Conversations on SGS Live. I'm Jessica Ingram from SGS. In this session today, we'll be exploring the exciting collaboration between 44 West, Reefs, and SGS, showing how bold challenges and a shared commitment to sustainability can drive meaningful impact. I'm thrilled to be hosting this conversation because in a couple of weeks, I'll be reporting from La Gomera in the Canary Islands, where 44 West will set off in the world's toughest row. It's a race that will go across the Atlantic Ocean. So today, we're going to dive into the story behind 44 West, learn about Reef's mission to restore coral reefs, and discover how SGS is supporting the initiative. Our discussion will highlight the shared values of trust, performance, teamwork, and sustainability, and how bold initiatives can drive positive change for our planet. There's so much to talk about, but first, let's meet our guests. So first up, we have Matias Fernandez, former under-23 world champion rower and a member of the 44 West team. Welcome, Matias.
Hi, Jessica. So cool to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. Next, we have Ulrika Frond, founder of Reefs, whose innovative coral restoration work is transforming degraded reef ecosystems. Welcome, Ulrika.
Thanks so much for having me.
And finally, we have João Rodrigues, head of Global Biosciences Center of Excellence at SGS. João, it's great to have you here.
Hi, everyone. Really happy to be here today.
Excellent. So to get us started, Matias, let's begin with you. The race across the Atlantic is known as the world's toughest row. For those who may not realize the scale of what you'll be undertaking, how would you describe what this journey demands, physically, mentally, but also as a team?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to say this already now because we still have it ahead of us.
Sure.
But it's going to take 1 month that we will be on the sea completely unsupported on our own, and we will always be rowing in a 2-hour on, 2-hour off rhythm. So it's going to take a lot of perseverance, a lot of willpower to really get the most out of it. Because it's such a long time, we also really need to make sure that we as a team function on our best. Like we show up to all of our shifts on our best possible level. So what exactly that it will take, I can tell you after the race, but we have prepared a lot, as you said, mentally, physically, but also as a team.
Absolutely, I can imagine. And I'll be excited to hear after the race, your debrief from how it was a month on the water. So João, after hearing what Matias is preparing for, it becomes clear that this isn't just a sports challenge. It's really an embodiment of values, like we said, performance, perseverance, trust. Why did SGS choose to sponsor 44 West? And how does this initiative tie into our broader sustainability commitments?
Yeah, sure. There are several reasons behind the decision to support 44 West. So first, we really wanted to support a local project, a local community in Zug, where it's the home of our SGS headquarters. And 44 West is a great local example. Second, the team's commitment in choosing to row the world's toughest race and the ambition to go for a world record really aligns with our values in terms of trust, teamwork, and performance. And these attributes are really key for champion teams. And finally, this racing under the banner, we row for biodiversity really resonates with us, really, and our impact now framework for sustainability. Really, we're looking at climate, nature, ESG assurance, circularity as the key pillars. And under this framework, we're helping all organizations worldwide to really turn their sustainability ambitions into measurable action. And I think this collaboration between 44 West and our reefs really aligns with us. And so rebuilding coral reefs is a great example of what we want to do collectively to preserve, restore, and regenerate biodiversity.
Great. And that's actually a good tie-in into my next question for Ulrika, who João, of course, just mentioned that 44 West is collaborating with Reefs, which is the organization I'm a part of. So can you tell us more about the heart of your mission? why restoring coral reefs is so urgent and how your approach makes a difference.
Thank you. First of all, it's been just amazing to start this project with Matthias and West, I think about 2 years ago. It's been a real journey since then in defining the collaboration and becoming friends, and yeah, just really glad to be here now, also involved with you guys. And we really founded Reefs. We're 4 female co-founders, and we founded Reefs in 2020 with a mission to help coral reefs survive the century. It's not going well for reefs, unfortunately. Some might have heard that they are the first climate tipping point, the first ecosystem to vanish if we're not careful. And this is obviously something that's, well, devastating for the world and also our global economy and insurability of coastlines, for example, but also a very personal thing close to the heart for me because I love biodiversity and I want to make it survive, you know. At the heart of what we do today, we've of course developed since 2020, is really that we offer a regeneration service that's holistic. We look at an area and ask what is missing. And most of the areas that we work in currently are missing habitat, are missing the home for all the organisms that belong with the reef and that make a reef function. So we rebuild that habitat with the system that you can see behind me, which is our reef habitat system that is able to bring back what corals usually take hundreds of years to build themselves.
Oh, that's great. And I think I remember seeing a few pictures actually with the 44 West team holding up, I guess, the system that you're putting into the ocean. So,
yeah, one of the modules, exactly.
Absolutely, one of the modules. So take a look, those of you who have tuned in, if you've not seen it, if you look back on our page, we have a few pictures on our LinkedIn page of that with 44 West there. And that ties me actually into the next question for you, Matthias. Ulrika just described how you've developed a friendship over the years, but I'm really curious to understand, what inspired your team to support reefs in the first place? Why coral reefs and why reefs in particular?
Yeah, so it was actually also, it was a journey for us to find a cause that we can really stand behind. And for us, it was very important to give something back, to have the opportunity to give the ocean something back for the experiences we already had, but are still going to have. And we did not just want to have a charity or something that raises awareness. Like, awareness is very important, but we really wanted to create a measurable impact and to have also something that is science-backed. And that's how we found reefs. And yeah, then we first looked into coral reefs a bit and saw, they're really suffering, as Ulrika said. It's one of the ecosystems that is on the tipping point already now. And then I think the key parameter for us that really was, we want to work together with reefs is the team. Like Ulrike, Anna, Josie, and Marie, as she said, we really became friends and saw how driven and just how they approach this really made so much sense to us. And it's then was the last decision point for us that we want to work together with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of the things that really pointed out in my mind, and I really appreciate, the journey you went through and to picking reefs to support. But 2 things come to mind, and we might see a little bit more of this a little later on in the conversation, but you're talking about, measurement and science-backed. And I think those are really important. And that's what ties in, to a lot of the work we do here at SGS as well. And that actually brings me to my next question, but is zooming out a little bit. And this is for João. So coral reefs support at least 25% of marine life. Yet, as we've been saying already, they're disappearing rapidly. So João, you're a biodiversity expert. Why should ocean biodiversity matter to businesses? And what risks and opportunities do you see emerging? And, I think we've got João who's frozen a bit. João, are you with us?
No, I think he's gone.
No, okay. And Ulrika just stepped away as well. Okay, well, in any case, we'll get back to them when...
No, I'm here.
Oh, good, you're back. Perfect. So we'll get that question back. Oh, João, are you with us now?
Yeah, I think I'm back.
Perfect.
Something happened. So
Yep,
just
no worries.
crashed, yeah, as it should when you'll go live. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yes,
Glad
I was
you're
going to
back here.
start talking and then it crashed. But so definitely, as already mentioned, so ocean biodiversity is not just an environmental issue; it's really an economic one. And as already underpinned by Ulrika and Matthias, so healthy marine ecosystems are really behind a really healthy global supply chains, food security, and climate resilience. So, and coral reefs are really the basis for all that. They support local communities, fisheries, tourism, and provide coastal protection to many areas. And actually, they are behind billions and billions of euros or dollars of ecosystem services, as they are called technically. So actually, so when that declines, so when biodiversity in those spots declines, we face risks. So there's resource scarcity, disrupt operations, reputational damage also to companies who are operating on those locations. So all stakeholders, shareholders, regulators as well, and us as citizens, consumers really demand more sustainable operations. So and we at SGS are seeing also on the flip side that actually there are many opportunities in the blue economy sector. So we're working with a lot of startups, big companies on sustainable seafood, on marine biotechnology projects, and nature-based solutions worldwide. So really, really cool things happening. And I think companies that at the end invest in ocean health can unlock really sustainable innovation for the future, secure long-term resilience, and above all, meet also growing ESG regulations and expectations from everyone. So in short, ocean biodiversity is also a business imperative, not a distance concern for all.
I see, Ulrika, you're nodding your head in agreement.
Yeah, it's like everything you say.
everything, completely agree. So I'd like to understand now, like, João, where can SGS help with all of this?
Oh, yeah. So definitely through our Impact Now portfolio of services, we've looked into that quite deeply, and we can help business actually turn biodiversity commitments into measurable outcomes. So whether it's assessing your marine-related risks, embed sustainability into your supply chain, or understanding opportunities in all this blue economy. So from our testing and inspection side, we can provide scientifically backed methodologies to measure and provide you trusted data. From our certification side, we can provide you the assurance that you need to lead responsibly and stay competitive.
Great. Ulrika, I know you have probably some tidbits to add to this as well, but I'd like to understand, João just highlighted why biodiversity isn't only a scientific concern, but also an economic and societal one. So from your work on the ground or even under the water, if we want to be really specific, what changes are you seeing in reef ecosystems?
I mean, in general, in reef ecosystems, what I've seen over the last 20 years or so is not surprising, is decline wherever we look. That being said, that does change if you're visiting marine protected areas that have been protected for 10 to 15 years, then actually we do see an increase in life again, which is just so beautiful. Amazing. And tells us what regenerative capacity the ocean as such really has if you let it. But what we've seen specifically on our sites, so barren sites that had lost their reefs in the past and that we've rebuilt, is probably the most striking one is the increase in fish biomass. Where across our sites, and those go from the Eastern Tropical Pacific, Caribbean, and into the Maldives and the Philippines, we have like between 3 to 10x increase in fish biomass after just 6 to 12 months.
Wow.
And
wow, that's incredible.
That just exemplifies how much habitat is missing, because fish, what they react to is they need space to hide, to sleep, to hunt, and to feed on. And if that's missing, they're not there, right? And then an important part of the reef is missing because a lot of those fish also eat algae. And
Right.
these algae are often in competition with coral. So if we can increase the amount of the fish that eat the algae, we can also help the coral grow back. Also adding, of course, the surface that the coral can grow on. And
Right.
so we're obviously, as a second thing, we're measuring coral. How many new coral do we get after 6 months, after 12 months? Corals are actually animals. I have to mention this because it is not something that's very intuitive. One might
Okay.
think corals are rock or plant,
Mhm.
but they're animals, and they're putting larvae up in the water, so tiny floaty things about 1 millimeter in size. That's the offspring of the coral. And it's those tiny larvae that have to settle down, and it's those settlers of baby coral that we're measuring. So we're trying to understand how many new coral are settling on our structures, and the results, again, have been tremendously positive and increasing every measuring period to measuring period for about 4 years in the Caribbean and about 1.5 years in the Philippines. That's the size of the data that we have.
Oh, that's really interesting. Thanks for sharing, some of these examples of the areas you're working in and how you're measuring the impact of the work you're doing. João, back to you. I'd like to maybe hear of a recent SGS project where our teams helped a client make similarly measurable positive impact on biodiversity.
Yeah, absolutely. I can probably describe 2 projects, one close to home, one further away, where we've been helping clients get measurable impact on their projects. So first, I'll probably go and talk about a project we've done in Indonesia with Wakatobi Dive Resource, where we're looking also at coral reefs, and we've invested quite a lot into getting the methodology right to be able to monitor coral reefs and the fish biomass on those sites. So we worked with the team there to provide support to that coral reef restoration and preservation. And we provided rigorous biodiversity assessments and monitoring protocols. And also add on to that really cool citizen science initiatives also for divers visiting the site to be able to contribute as well. So really creating transparent, scientifically based ways and verifiable at the end to see what's happening and what are the results. Here, close to homes, and I think ties really well with what Eureka was saying, we worked with a local startup, Sea Forester, which is actually restoring kelp forests nearby in Cascais, in the bay here, near Lisbon, and they are providing really lively local ecosystems for fish biomass to recover and really not only bring what we want, which is increased carbon, that location as a carbon sink, but above all, it'll be a really amazing biodiversity hotspot in a beautiful location. So I think those 2 projects highlight really well what SGS is all about, how we're helping our clients move beyond just commitments to really verifiable outcomes. So I think this is the basis. Turn restoration also into something that is measurable, and that at the end can unlock new financing opportunities for all. So without finance, we cannot also restore all these sites, and that's really the basis of all.
That's very true. Thanks for sharing that. Matthias, let's go back to you for a minute and back to the road that you're about to embark on. Your team is going to spend weeks in the middle of the Atlantic, as you mentioned earlier, rowing in shifts, 2 hours on, 2 hours off. Obviously, you'll be managing a lot of uncertainty and relying entirely on each other as a team. So really, what does teamwork look like when your survival depends on it? And from that, what lessons can we all take into consideration when we consider our own work environments?
Yeah, I think most important for us is really the trust to have in each other, trust to have into the preparations that we did, like not starting to think what could we have done better, but really trust. And then the second thing is a bit of a misconception that the word team player is often used, in my opinion, in a bit of a wrong way. So, or different than how we see it on the boat.
Okay. I'm
For us,
intrigued.
yeah, so for us, a team player is really about showing up on your best possible way every 2 hours to your shift. So you actually start with yourself. You
Okay.
have to make sure that you are the best possible self to be the best team player. So as soon as you start lacking with doing your tasks, taking care of yourself, you're already hindering the team to reach the best performance. So for us, being a team player is really having its own things really perfectly done. And then if you then still have the capability to help out, you can do it. So that's the most important. But it's also because of the nature of our project. It's a race, but it's less about winning the race. But there's many different ways how you can lose the race. So maybe also a bit of an analogy to coral reefs. We need to support the weakest as well, and kind of make sure that the weakest link in our ecosystem is not in danger. So these two parts.
Absolutely. No, that's really. It's not, and especially around the teamwork, it's not necessarily what you think when you think teamwork, but I think you're right on in that it's important to take care of yourself, and that's where that mental preparation, I suppose, comes into play as well. And like you said, that's how you can best then show up for your teammate, by taking care of yourself as well. So I love that.
Exactly.
As well, I think, there's probably some things we can, take away in our own, way we collaborate and work together at SGS. So how do you see, this idea of trust and shared responsibility in our context here in this very large organization that we work for?
No, I was hearing Matthias, and I was really relating to what happens at the sport level and what happens at the corporate level. So I think really at the end, trust and shared responsibility needs to be behind everything we do. Because we work in a really big multinational with projects happening worldwide, quite complex. We rely on each other. So really this trust that we need to have when we're developing projects, like I was saying, in Indonesia, on our local teams there, and collaborate really well with the people in the lab, with the data scientists provided. This is really key. And I really loved your insight, Matthias, and really talking about me and my team here. We're here in Lisbon, and the amazing team here. We completely align with all the things you described, Matthias, and we really at the end we have a clear motto to deliver the best, outstanding service, but really in a really collaborative way. And I think that's also something that I wanted to highlight. All this trust, shared responsibility is what enables innovation to foster, collaboration to foster. And we do that a lot. We don't like to reinvent the wheel. So a lot of collaboration, a lot of projects with startups, a lot of projects with universities, with NGOs, and that's governments as well. We've managed to collaborate with those as well. And I think that also ties really well what sustainability is all about. All this is really complex, a lot of cross-disciplinary things come into play. And that's exactly where I think trust and shared responsibility is really at the heart. And so at the end, what we want is really at SGS to provide valuable data, deliver measurable impact to our clients. So that's
Absolutely.
what's fully aligned. Yeah.
Goes back to this word measurable impact.
Yeah. Love measurements here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So before we continue, I just, to all of our audience who's tuning in, I just wanted to say a quick hello to anyone who might have joined us. We have, quite a few comments popping up, some users, hello, don't hesitate to put a few comments, tell us where you're from as well. So just to remind anyone tuning in, today we're on SGS Live, obviously, and then we're exploring an inspiring initiative that brings together 44 West, Reefs, and SGS in a shared commitment of trust, teamwork, performance, and sustainability. So if you've joined us for a few minutes, I'm with Matthias from 44 West, Eureka from Reefs, and Joel from SGS. And they're all helping us unpack the story behind the collaboration that we share together. Just one more note before we get back into the interview. We will do a few Q&As at the end of the interview portion. So if you do have questions, you can leave it in the chat. All right, so Eureka, back to you. In your world, here we go. We're talking about performance and probably measurement again. Performance isn't about speed, it's about ecological recovery. And I know you've gone into this a little bit already, but can you just re-explain to us a little bit more how you measure success?
Definitely. Measurement is very important to us as well. Measuring impact, same motto. No, for sure, because we also report to the people that help support these reef regeneration initiatives, which are between corporations and individuals. And we do want to show them how this reef area is developing over the years. So our monitoring scheme is every 6 months on every single one of our regeneration areas, of which there are currently 5. And then we go in, we work with divers. It's still the most reliable source of information. So we work with transects. We essentially have them swim across the area multiple times, counting both fish. That's expert taxonomists that count them. We count every single species. We count invertebrates, visible invertebrates. So everything that's kind of crawling, hiding inside the bricks. Sea urchins, for example, sea cucumbers, etc., clams. And then we go, or we have the teams go in at night and visually from photographs under UV light, count the corals. The corals fluorescent green. It looks really beautiful when you shine a blue or UV light on them at night. They shine back at you in bright fluorescent green, and that makes them really easy to find in contrast. So those are the most important ones, invertebrates and coral. And then, of course, we do general checkups on integrity of the habitat. Are there any breakages, anything like that? Have there been sand shifts? So is the environment somehow changing overall? And we, of course, note any big stuff that we see that transits through, like sharks or turtles, etc. And the most remarkable site really has been in the central
You're
Philippines.
anticipating my next question, because I wanted to get down to some specifics. You mentioned, I think you said you had about 5 sites you're working on, right? Yeah. So I want to know, do you have one site where you've seen a real, already a real kind of success return on biodiversity? And I think that's maybe where you're headed.
I mean, we've been positively surprised by all the sites.
Okay.
It's all the hypotheses we had have been true or more than true. I'm putting a little bracket on our reef in San Andres in the Colombian Caribbean, because that has been built with our old system, which we've improved since. But then in all the new, and that's still thriving as well. But then specifically in the Philippines, and that's due to also the quality of the water in general in this area of the world, and the huge amount of biodiversity that's around here in the coral triangle, we've had the best results. We have 2 sites in the Philippines, in the southern Philippines, south of Mindanao, and then in the central Philippines on the island of Siquijor, which is close to Cebu or Dumaguete. And in Siquijor, we're seeing coral recruit numbers that I literally haven't seen anywhere else, not even in natural studies in protected areas, with 90 new corals per square meter of area after 6 months. So let's see where that's going. But that's, yeah, I mean, there's so many, they can't even all survive, right? Because they'll as they grow, they will be too dense. But the nice thing about this is we have a higher starting population of new coral, so the survivors are probably better selected, and that's really great. And it's also in the Philippines that we've had 10x, so 10 times more fish than 6 months before, just through rebuilding this habitat. And that was in a really, really depleted bay, Pujara Bay, a bay in the southern Philippines, where there's literally hardly any large fish left because the fishing pressure is quite high. And that's, again, nobody's fault except for the large fishing corporations ones, potentially. But it's just beautiful to be able to also work with the government to then protect this regenerated area so that it is not being fished. This is one aspect of our work that's taking a lot of time and is very complex because it's politics and policy, but it's an integral part of our work in every part of the world.
That's incredible, and it sounds like the work you're doing really is making a positive impact. So keep it. I mean, we all together, we're part of the collaboration to keep it going forward, right?
Matthias, you're now in it with us.
We're now in it. Absolutely happy to be a part of it as well. Matthias, performance for you means endurance, resilience, consistency, over thousands of kilometers that you'll be rowing. Going into the preparation, how do you and your team prepare just to be able to maintain your peak performance during such an extreme challenge? I know you talked about mentally before, but are there other areas on how you prepare to really, like I said, perform?
Yeah, I think it's very similar as well as Ulrika said. When you build a reef, you start with one way of doing it and you improve and improve until you are kind of perfectioning it. And that was the same with us. During the training, we went on the sea many times. We spent several weeks already on the water, and every time we iterated and improved processes. So now for us, the race is really about just checking the boxes, making sure that we execute the plan that we have, and keep, of course, some part of adaptability, because there will be things we couldn't plan ahead. So I think it's this combination of just executing your plan, but being flexible enough. And also, I think then there is, again, trust that comes in. Like, do you trust yourself and the team that if there's something we did not prepare for, that we can handle it? So yeah, it's this combination of how much you can control versus stuff that you cannot.
I like it. Yeah, trust, agility as well. I think you can prepare for that, but you also need to be a bit flexible because there will be a lot of unknown that comes and you need to adapt quickly. And again, that's what it ties back to trust, because you're with your teammates who you trust fully, right? So it's all a circle, it seems. One more question now for João. Going back to trust. Trust is the foundation of your work with clients and partners. So in sustainability projects, this is, the trust is built on transparency. And again, like we said many times already today, measurable results. So do you have an example where trust with a client was essential to driving real impact?
Yeah, great question. Again, I was hearing Matthias and trying to relate to trust in sport, trust in team, and also trust in projects like we're developing with clients. And I fully agree, absolutely critical trust to be able to develop comprehensive sustainability project with our clients. And not just because as I was saying before, the projects are complex in general, but because also, and I think that's something that we haven't discussed here today, is that sometimes we're working with quite sensitive data as well. And companies, governments, sometimes they can feel that they are exposed somehow. And when we're starting to gather all this environmental data, operational data, so really what we typically do is really collaborative work and a big collaborative effort to make sure the approach is always sound, that is informed by the best methods and actually informs the best choices after. So it's really shared responsibility with all stakeholders happening here. So I shared already some examples of private work that we've done. So I'll probably focus now on a government example. And typically, when we work with governments, we work in things like marine protected areas to gather the data. Also,
exactly like Ulrika was talking about earlier with her work.
Yeah. So that's the typical work we've been doing mostly. We are hired to help increase the data behind, to support those choices, because at the end it's a choice should we protect here or there? So you need to gather all the evidence there. And so I'll just choose one, a marine example that we're really proud. We were invited to join the Selvagens 50 expedition, so to one of the most pristine marine areas in the North Atlantic, near the Madeira Island in Portugal. So it's been going on 50 years. This marine protected area. It's probably the longest one in Europe, or almost near that. So from day one, to be able to be present, we prioritized trust and transparency. So we shared methods, findings openly with all the partners involved. And that means universities, government, NGOs that were present. And really there we introduced environmental DNA as a tool in that project for the first time, because there was not been before environmental DNA used. So we used water samples, air samples, vegetation samples also on the island. So really non-invasive techniques that allowed us to gather data at unprecedented scale. And really, I think, brought also confidence, accuracy to everything that we gathered. And really that's already been now fully published. And above all, is now the basis of what we expect now to be long-term monitoring programs for that area, so that we can really then go back year after year and see how things are progressing or not. So I think this is a great example of trust, transparency, and also, again, measurable results
Absolutely.
With a client. So.
Yeah, great. Thanks. So I think now we're going to go to a few audience questions. I think we've got a few that have shown up in the chat. So we have one from Lori. Question for Matthias. 2 hours on and 2 hours off sleep schedule is intense. Does your crew practice any techniques to help fall to sleep quicker, given the short time frame you have?
Yeah, actually, we do have some breathing techniques that help us to just relax a bit faster, but we only use them the first 2 to 3 days. After that, you're so tired,
Sure.
you fall asleep pretty fast. It's rather like then it switches, like how can you wake up after 2 hours very fast and kind of get into this attack mode again.
Yeah.
But there again, it's breathing. I think breathing is a super powerful tool to control our mental state. Excellent.
Thanks a lot. Next question. Oh, this is maybe this is more of a comment from an environmental consultant. So an important note on coral reefs in our region as I follow this inspiring live session. Thanks a lot. I'd like to highlight that the coral reefs in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden are facing increasing pressures due to climate change and coastal activities. They're in urgent need of science-based restoration and rehabilitation efforts, similar to the innovative work led by what Ulrike does with reefs. And supporting such initiatives is a direct investment in biodiversity, sustainability, and in protecting coastal fishing communities. Yeah, I mean, I think this is really, exactly the same sentiment that we were discussing earlier. Joao or Eureka, do either of you have a comment to this very important comment that was made?
Yes, I mean, first of all, thank you. Yeah, totally agree. And thank you for chiming in and mentioning this, especially because the Red Sea has for a long time, and to some extent still is, seen as a bit of a safe haven from global warming for corals, because the corals in the Red Sea are much more resilient to temperatures, because they've been growing at much higher temperatures. So they can even take a larger increase in percent of what they're used to. That being said, they're also not looking good in many parts of the Red Sea. So in a way, the situation is more dire than some of us hoped. And the Red Sea is beginning to need help. And we are discussing both with players in Egypt, in Saudi Arabia, and then also not the Red Sea, but the other side of this landmass, the United Arab Emirates, about helping the reefs there. And I think it's a very important area that we haven't worked in before. Any door openers are always welcome, of course. You're welcome to get directly in touch with me if you want, if you have an idea on how to collaborate.
Absolutely. And we can maybe tag your LinkedIn profile in on that comment. So yeah, so they can get in touch.
Definitely.
All right. I don't think we have any more questions from the audience, but thank you so much for the questions and comments. Before we wrap up though, just bear with us a few more minutes. I have a final question for each of you before we say goodbye on this session. So Ulrika, looking ahead, what is your long-term vision for reefs, and how can people watching today be a part of that journey?
We really want to get into a state, we want reefs, the company, our team, to get into a state where we are so scalable that we can work at kilometers of a coastline at a time. Specifically, why I'm mentioning coastlines is that if we manage to rebuild coastal barriers, if you will, erosion barriers to the coastline that are so direly needed, we can do that by just rebuilding the natural reefs with all their biodiversity instead of putting concrete breakwaters or other concrete barriers that don't sustain very much life. That is something that I really, really hope for, that we get to that stage, both in terms of operational capacity, but also in terms of the willingness of governments to say, maybe put a little premium out if you're restoring a reef while you're trying to repair your coastline. That's really what I'd hope for. We're aiming for the first hectare-sized projects by 2027, and then scaling up from there.
Excellent. And we've put the Reefs website on the screen, and we'll put it in the comments as well if anybody wants to explore this topic any further. So João, for you, many organizations are eager to act on sustainability but don't know where to start. What's your advice here?
Good. So my advice is actually quite simple. Start. Start now. Yes. Talk to SGS, talk with us, talk with the guys here, talk with Ulrika. So really, neither individuals, companies, governments can afford to wait. So climate and biodiversity are deeply interconnected, as we all know now. Science is clear, and delaying action actually only amplifies the risks that you're going to face. So we need to really halt this biodiversity loss that we talked a lot today here. So to ensure that we all have a livable planet for the future, for future generations. And above all, to ensure that businesses like ours and many others can continue also to thrive. Because without nature and with unforeseen nature risks, we'll all be facing a lot of disruption. So we don't want that. So in a nutshell, really turn your ambitions into measurable actions. And start by, in our case, as SGS and my team, we like to also always start to understand the impact on nature, set clear baselines, define science-based targets, and start measuring, and understanding it really well, and embed this really deeply into your strategy. So that's the only way things can progress. So really get credible data and transparent reporting, and SGS is here to help. That's the only message I can pass. So
there you go. And so if you are ready to take João's advice and start now, feel free to reach out to João or sgs.com, or you can leave a comment. You know, we'll get your message to the right people. Okay, Matthias, we're going to end with you. Before you set off across the Atlantic, what's the final milestone in your preparation? So what's going to happen between now and the start line, which is only 2 weeks away?
Yeah, so the boat actually has arrived yesterday in La Gomera. All our material is safe and sound there. There is a few compliance checks that we still have ahead so that we are allowed to start from the race organizers, and a few kind of checks where they also test our knowledge that we are really fit for the journey. Other than that, I think it's what we've spoken so much before about trust, like getting into this mental state, slowing down. Like we now have 2 weeks where we don't work anymore, where we can really focus 100% on what's ahead and getting into this perfect mental state. And then it's just about executing.
Absolutely. Well, best of luck in the final countdown, and I will actually see you in La Gomera, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
Excellent. Well, we've had a really good discussion today. Thanks to all of you who are tuning in for joining this SGS Live, and especially a big thanks to you, Matthias, Ulrika, and Joel, for sharing your passion, expertise, and vision. If you want to get involved or follow the latest updates from 44 West as they cross the Atlantic, you can check out the links that we'll be posting in the comments. And of course, you're welcome to keep the comments going as well. And of course, stay tuned. We'll be reporting from La Gomera the week of December 9th as 44 West prepares to take on the world's toughest row. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.